Well, that's actually one of the things that social media has made accessible. There's a lot of local groups through social media that you can find a mentor to help you learn how to bass fish or tie off a lure, or learn how to shoot a bow, or learn how to get into your tree stand for the first time and be able to shoot out of your tree stand. There's a lot of people willing to go out of their way to mentor you, to show you the ropes, to show you what not to do, to show you the right thing. I'm Chris Avena with American Outdoor News on the Tom Rowland podcast.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the podcast today. Got a good one with Chris Avena from American Outdoor News. I haven't met Chris before, so we're just kind of catching up and finding out all about his business and some cool stuff like his interview with Bo Jackson, one of the greatest athletes we've ever had on this planet. So I'm a big Bo Jackson fan. Wanted to hear all about that. And I think you're going to really enjoy this one with Chris Avena from American Outdoor News. He is new on the Waypoint Network as well. So there's so much good stuff over there on the Waypoint Network that you can go check out. You can see we have like over 50 podcasts now. There are so many new producers coming on the video side. All our stuff is over there. We have Into the Blue, Saltwater Experience, Sweetwater, Guides and Tides headed that way. So lots of cool stuff. Plus my podcast is over there, but you guys already know that. You're listening to it right now. Anyway, Waypoint TV is a great place. You go to waypointtv.com. You can find out how to watch or listen to any of your favorite outdoor content by going to the Ways to Watch page if you're unfamiliar. If you have a brand new Samsung TV, you can watch the Waypoint channel on Samsung Plus TV. It's totally free and full of amazing content. You watch it just like a regular TV channel. That is where a lot of people are watching. But also Waypoint TV, of course, is on demand. So if you go to the Waypoint TV app or waypointtv.com, you can select whatever you want to watch, whenever you want to watch it, and you can probably get it on any device that you want. Go to the Ways to Watch page to learn how to do that. Anyway, thanks so much for all the support for this podcast. Like I have said many times before, this podcast has grown every day that we've put it out, and we're getting some great guests on here, but that's all thanks to you guys for supporting the podcast. And if you want to support the podcast, there's a couple of ways that you could do that. You can go to Apple iTunes or the Apple Podcast app and rate and review the show. That is a really big thing. Just hit that 5-star rating, and then if you have just a couple of minutes, just write a quick review. If you don't know what to write, say, write something about your favorite episode. I really like this episode with so-and-so. I learned whatever. Anything like that is awesome. It just lets other people that are discovering the show understand that this is a real show, that we're really putting out good content, and that people actually like it and might be worth their time. There's a ton of podcasts out there, and, we want to grow this show so we can keep doing it. So I appreciate your help there. Also, if you want to join the Inner Circle and you want to be updated on all the new stuff that we're doing, be that podcasts, television shows, whatever it is, appearances, meetups at ICAST, workouts at stuff like ICAST, or when I'm at Hawks K or whatever, you can come and actually work out with me. We'll probably do the deck of cards, but maybe not. Maybe we'll find some other workouts. But that is also very easy to do. You just text 305-930-7346. Text the word TEAM, T-E-A-M, TEAM, to that, and you will be part of the team. You'll be part of the Inner Circle, and that is also the best way to communicate with me directly. If you have show suggestions, if you have guest suggestions. I've taken a tremendous number of guest suggestions from that text thread, and it works great. So if you've got somebody that you think would be a great guest, I'd love to hear about it, and I'll do my best to get them on here. So that's a great way to get a hold of me. In fact, it is the best way to get a hold of me. I will respond to you there. So that text is 305-930-7346. Text the word team to that, and you will be part of the inner circle. All right, on to the show with Chris Avena and American Outdoor News. All right, Chris, how's it going, man?
Going great, Tom. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on. I'm looking forward to getting to know you a little better and finding out how you started this awesome business you got going on.
Well, it's, I've been in the outdoor industry for a while now. I also own a social network called seemehunt.com.
Okay. What's that about? What a social network. What is that?
It's basically a place where all outdoorsmen can go and network and meet each other and talk about different gear, different hunts, and it's multifaceted. There's forums, there's blogs. You can upload your videos and pictures. I haven't focused on that a lot lately, so I really need to redo that site and bring it up to date. Mm-hmm. I was speaking to somebody about buying a publication. Their numbers were a little out of line. I think they were more emotional numbers than financial numbers. And basically I said, I don't need to buy your magazine. I could start my own. He said, go ahead. I said, hold my beer. And here I am today.
There you go. So what year was that when you handed off your beer? That
was a little over 3 years ago. Okay. We're just venturing into our fourth season, and it's been a learning curve. It's been exciting. It's really developed along the way, and I'm excited for things to come.
Yeah. So that's American Outdoor News that you're talking about that you started, right?
Yes.
So did you start it as a physical magazine or a digital magazine?
I started as a digital magazine. The margins for print are shrinking by the day. I get magazines at my house all the time, and I'll pick it up and say, hey, that looks like a great issue. And I'll put it down, and before I know it, the next issue comes, and I never read that one. So I think the way people's mindsets are going, and they're always on the move, and they always have a phone or a tablet or a computer in their hand, and it makes it so much easier to just access the magazine at this point.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know. I used to get, well, that's kind of the way that I developed my love for the outdoors was basically going hunting and fishing with my dad when I was young, but we always had the Field and Stream. We always had the outdoor life. We always had, my dad had American Rifleman. I remember that was always around. And I would just study those magazines. I mean, I would just study them and study them and study them and read and then go back to them. And you'd have a stack of these things that you would go back to. And, I do kind of miss those days of physical magazines. You'd go into the doctor's office or you'd go into places like that and you would see these physical magazines, but things have definitely changed. I don't think that the advertisers are as excited about print as they once were, for sure, because there's just so many other ways. But the digital seems to be the way of the future, and I'm sure you're seeing that on a daily basis.
Absolutely, and we can share our advertisers' ads or the articles on multiple platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest. There's features in the magazine where you could share with your friends or share it on your own social media.
Yeah. And so when you first started this, was the idea to basically be a hunting magazine, or was it all outdoors, or what was your idea with it?
I'm in New York, so you wouldn't think I grew up in the outdoors. But I've always loved being outdoors through, being young, going camping with the Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, and my uncle would always take me camping with my uncle, with my cousins. So he really introduced me to the outdoors and took me on my first hunt and whatnot. So yeah, I love kayaking. I love fishing. I love hiking, anything outdoors. So that's pretty much what the magazine is. Shooting sports, really everything that we love to do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to pigeonhole it or limit it to just one topic.
Yeah. Do you see that your customers and your readers and subscribers are kind of across all outdoors, or can you tell that you have more hunters or more fishermen? Or
Oh, I definitely have more hunters than anything else, but I would say overall, the hunter is an outdoorsman at heart, and most of them will pick up a fishing pole and go freshwater fishing or saltwater fishing. They'll go on a hike. So yeah, it's I think all of my readers really embrace the outdoors. They don't just rifle hunt or just bow hunt.
Yeah.
It's a broad spectrum.
Mm-hmm. So you say you grew up in New York area. I read this book when I was probably in the 4th grade. It was probably one of the most impactful books on me. It was probably the first book I ever finished, and maybe the only book I finished for a long time. I wasn't a very good reader in grammar school, but it was called My Side of the Mountain, and it was about this boy that runs away from New York, and he goes to the Catskills, and he like hollows out this tree, and he has this, he captures a falcon, and then he starts doing falconry, and he's catching all this stuff. I just thought that was the coolest book ever. Are you familiar with that book?
No, I'm not. But Catskills is where I've always
that's
gone.
what I was going to ask. Like, are you familiar with that area? And that's probably that's your backyard, probably.
Yeah, well, it's 2 hours away from me. We had a club there club was there for over 20 years. I was a member and on the board for 10 or 12. It was a 2-hour drive from me. We had 600 acres. We had a 60-acre lake, couple cabins, and now the owner just sold the property, so we lost all these. And scrambling for the season now.
Oh yeah, that sounds like a paradise, man. That 60-acre lake. What was in there? Did you have trout in there?
We had crappie and catfish and bass. We had a lot of different fish to catch in there.
Yeah, that sounds awesome, man. And then what's the hunting like in the Catskills?
We got a little everything. A lot of deer and bear, turkey, coyote, really a little everything.
And with the proximity to so many big cities, is it crowded? Do you see a lot of people there, or is it easy to get away up there?
It's easy to get away. New York really has everything.
Yeah.
We have, beautiful beaches. We have the cities, suburbs, and we're just a few hour drive from going up in the mountains. I could drive 6 hours and be up in the Adirondack, and the woods are as thick as being up in Maine.
Yeah, nice. Well, I had the only real experience I've had with being in the woods in New York is a long time ago. I did this Great Outdoor Games, and it was in Lake Placid. And so I went up there and fished the Ausable River, and man, it was awesome. I mean, it really looked a lot like the area that I grew up in Tennessee. It was kind of these rolling hills. You got a lot of rhododendron. You got a lot of like mountainous kind of, I don't know, same type of vegetation, same type of terrain. Just really cool. I liked it a lot, and it opened my eyes because, I had visited the city a number of times. You're thinking, man, I don't know how anybody would live here. You can't hunt or fish or do anything. I mean, it's nice to visit for a couple of days, but I sure don't want to live here. As Central Park is your wildlife, and that's pretty sweet. And I love New York. I love going to the city. That's great, but it wasn't a place that I would want to live when I first visited there. But then you get your eyes open to like what the state of New York has, and you kind of feel almost stupid. Like, I had no idea this existed up here, and it's so easy to get away from the city and away from the population centers. And look, you have these beautiful rivers, and like Lake Placid is amazing. That place, I love that place.
Yeah, they had the Olympics up there.
I know. I went to that place, and so I had read that book. And later, after I had gone to Lake Placid, I saw the movie Miracle, and
Oh, sure.
they portray this as this. It was this amazing game between the Russians and the Americans beat the Russians, and it was this really underdog story of just. It was one of the greatest sporting events probably of all time.
Historic victory.
But you go into that place today knowing that story, and it looks like you're at a high school gym. I mean, it is not a big place. That place had to be rocking and rolling when that went on. That
whole town, the whole, Lake Placid Village, they had the skiing events, they had the hockey events, figure skating. I mean, it was something. I didn't go up there during the Olympics, but I've been up there since. And that whole region is called the Finger Lakes region. And there's a lot of lakes and beautiful little villages and towns, and a lot of bear up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do the and black bear, obviously. Do they get big up there? Or are they on the smaller side?
I think the typical New York bear is probably like 200 pounds. Mm-hmm. The big 400, 500, 600 pound bears you don't see often, but they're there.
Yeah.
They're big for a reason.
So what's the bear hunting regulations like in New York? I mean, that seems, I don't know, you start talking about bear hunting, you start talking about New York, it seems like there would be kind of it might get taken out of the hands of the scientists and the game wardens and into the hands of the people that are like, oh no, let's don't hunt bears, not right here.
We have an overabundance of bears. We're allowed to take one bear per season, no matter if you take it during bow season, rifle season, or muzzleloader season. I think last year alone we took 6 bear off our property.
Wow.
Off the 600 acres. That's a lot of bear on 600 acres.
Sure. And then you're probably still seeing plenty, even by taking 6 off.
I didn't shoot one last year, but I saw some nice bears right under my stand.
Yeah.
I saw 2 separate sows with 2 cubs each. I could have thrown a rock at them that were that close, 20 yards and less.
And that's when you're deer hunting?
Well, deer and bear run
at the same
season.
Yeah.
So I could have shot it with my bow, but it was a mother with cubs. I wasn't going to do that.
Right. Yeah. And what do you like to do with the bear that you harvest?
Oh, bear's delicious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like to either throw it in the crock pot, season it with beef stock and just let it sit in there for a few hours. Or put it on the smoker.
Yeah.
There's burgers, there's sausage. I love to cook. So, and there's actually a cooking section in the magazine. And we always feature different wild game recipes.
Nice.
This coming issue, we're going to have a duck recipe, and it's made in a sun oven.
Sun oven.
It's not gas. It's not charcoal. You put it in this box and you pull out the reflectors and you leave it in the sun for a few hours and it cooks. It steams.
Wow.
You can't burn it. You can leave it in there all day. You can make, dehydrate food in there. You can make bread. You can make just about anything in there. It's amazing.
Wow. That's cool. I've never used a sun oven. But living in Florida for a lot of years, you could definitely make just about anything. I think you can fry an egg some days on the deck of the boat. But
Florida, especially, you could put it out a roast out for a couple hours, and you'll be able to have a feast.
Wow. So who makes that a sun oven? I've never.
It's called Sun Oven.
Oh, really?
That's the name of the company. It's actually going to be featured in the magazine this issue.
Cool. Cool. That's awesome. So do you use any other kind of grills?
I just got a new Brio.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen those.
Brio fire pit with the grill on it. I've used the grill before, the Brio grill, and we just put it over a fire pit, and we were able to barbecue corn and some steaks and whatnot. Regular barbecues. I got my smoker. Love to smoke. I just started getting into that.
Into the smoking?
Yeah.
But do you have a dedicated smoker, or are you doing it with one of the grills that will also smoke?
I have a dedicated smoker.
Yeah.
And it's not a great one. It's just something cheap one I picked up offline to see if I liked it. And I'm probably going to be stepping up into something a little more elaborate.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so a lot of those new grills, especially the pellet grills, you can also smoke. And from my experience, I had a smoker that was like a refrigerator. It was like a little college refrigerator, It was small.
Yeah.
But it worked great, but it was kind of hard to clean. Like I kind of,
I've been shying away from those for that particular reason.
Yeah, they're really kind of hard to clean because you just smoked it all day long. Now you're excited to eat it, and you might pull the racks out and start scrubbing those things. But the inside of that oven, really, the smoker, it really needs to be cleaned regularly, and it's pretty hard to do. That's why I was kind of leaning towards.
Too, right?
Yeah, I was kind of, and for that part, it's so awesome. Like you set the temperature and then the time, and you leave, and it will stay exactly that temperature for however long. And all you got to do is make sure that there's some wood chips in there, and it's really really easy to use, but very difficult to clean. And that's why I was kind of thinking about going to one of those pellet grills with a smoker, because you just turn it on high and burn everything off like you would on a regular grill. And it seems way easier to clean. I don't know if it's easier to cook, but it seems easier to clean.
Well, it's easier to maintain the exact temperature that you want with the pellet grills because it will automatically feed to maintain that temperature. So you can, go shopping or whatever, run whatever errands you want, and it's going to maintain that heat. The amount of time it's got to be on there. I'm more of a hands-on guy, so I like feeding the wood, and I like picking the wood that I'm going to put in there. And to me, it's an activity.
Yeah, well, it is. It's like an all-day kind of thing. You're going to have some people over for the football game or whatever, and you start way early, and you start smoking or whatever you're getting ready to do, and it's kind of an all-day thing. My buddy Scott Walker, he loves doing that, and that's his whole day. That might be his whole weekend. He's going to brine something on Friday, and then he's going to put it on the grill on Saturday, and Saturday night everybody comes over, and like he spent the whole weekend doing that, but it's amazing when you eat it. It's fantastic, and it's definitely worth the deal. Well, that's cool. So you cover all that in your magazine. What else are you like, as far as like you have news in your name? So I don't know if that's what you're if it evolved into that eventually, because everything kind of changes. But do you cover a lot of news?
We try to be topical. A lot of our writers will send in articles based on their own experience, whether they're summiting Mount Kilimanjaro or going on an African game hunt or, going to on a muskox hunt or whatever it is. But, we have a section, a 2A section, where we like to keep current on Second Amendment issues.
What's going on with that right now?
Well, it seems that, they're trying to regulate our background checks. Expanded background checks is not the answer. Any of these shootings where, say, somebody had purchased a gun legally, they didn't have a record, no felonies, no assaults, no violent behavior in their background, none of this would have come up in a background check. Even, like a psychological issue, anybody could have a breakdown. You and I could have a breakdown. But it doesn't mean, that's their norm. It's not going to show up in a background check. Expanded background checks, it can keep adding and adding and adding. It's not going to help crime.
Right.
It's not going. If somebody is intent on going out and committing a crime or a shooting or whatever, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
But the bills that are brought to the floor right now, HR 8 and HR 1446, those are both expanded background bills. They're not going anywhere. They're not voting on them. I know. I think the left knows they're not going to get the votes, the 50 votes, let alone 60 votes in the filibuster. I think the moderate left is leaning more towards the right as far as that issue goes. And in New York, they presented something about not hunting with lead bullets. Where are you going to get bullets right now? Lead, steel, copper, where are you going to get it? There's nothing out there. So they're not getting the guns. They're trying to backdoor it with regulating our ammunition. And that's not going to work either. They're looking to expand the background checks, make sure you have insurance. I think it's $800 per gun. And the average hunter owns more than one weapon.
Sure.
So they're trying to make it unaffordable for you to own a gun, among other things.
That would be a special kind of insurance, like a gun insurance, not like on your homeowner's policy or something like that.
It would be over and above any insurance that you're carrying on your house. But that's backdooring registration. If you have insurance, well, he must own a gun.
Right.
That's another form of registration.
Right. And so that would people that already own guns be grandfathered in on something like that, or is this like no they want you to have I haven't heard that yet.
It's not just ARs, it's rifles in general. Handguns you already have a license for.
Right.
You don't need a license for a rifle.
And so those are things that that are proposed right now, but not getting a lot of traction.
Correct.
Yeah. And so how closely are you covering all of the momentum and movements and proposed bills and all kinds of stuff like that? Do you keep your finger on the pulse of that all the time?
I try. It's not always easy, but I'll listen to different YouTube channels and try to read whatever's coming out.
Yeah.
But they're always going to try.
Yeah. It's a tough thing. It really is. I mean, nobody wants to see mass school shootings. That's terrible. That's a terrible thing to see. And then people feel like they got to do something. So
there's over 300 million guns in this country. Over 80 million gun owners. If there was a epidemic or a serious gun problem, the public would know about it. So it's not the legal gun owners. Criminals will always get guns.
Yeah. It's just hard to know what to do. I mean, I certainly own a lot of guns, and I don't know. It's a weird kind of place because, like I say, people feel like they need to do something, but what? Like
this year alone, there's over 8 million new first-time gun owners.
Yeah,
and that is brought on through a lot of different factors.
Well, this
yeah,
year there's been a lot of things that make you think, man, I think I might need a gun.
well,
A
it
lot of
just
things
depends.
going on.
You have the pandemic. You have riots across the country, Portland, Seattle, Chicago, even New York.
Hmm.
Um, people want to protect their home and family.
Right. And then you have the movement to defund the police, which if
Hmm.
you don't have police there, then I mean, I'm sure that there are a tremendous number of people who are realizing, oh, well, if they're not coming, then who's coming to help me if in the case that somebody breaks into my house? Well, probably nobody.
Yeah. And, I grew up in a police family. My father was a police officer, my uncle, my cousin. Uh, Probably 70% of my friends are on the job. Um, People don't realize what they go through on a day-to-day basis. It's a dangerous job.
Sure it is.
It's, there's not too many careers out there where you go to work in the morning not knowing if you 100% going to make it home at night.
Yeah. No, I definitely don't think that the defund the police is the answer. I was immediately thinking, no, more training, more, you know, more recruiting, more training up and getting the best possible applicants,
Yep,
um, and having them be the most qualified, and that requires more funding, not less funding. Um,
100%.
but yeah, man, it's um, that's a tough job. That's a really tough job.
Maybe do more hand-to-hand training, hand-to-hand combat training, things of that nature. Um, Look at this woman that got shot in, what was it, Ohio? She was trying to stab somebody.
Hmm.
Cop shot her. They try to make it a racial issue, which there's no racial issue in this country. All of us have friends of different religions, different races, different whatever.
Hmm.
I don't see an issue with that. I think that's a narrative they're trying to push. They were trying to then, after the racial, they tried to make it that this guy only had 16 months on the job, but he is a combat veteran.
Hmm.
He's got experience. He's probably got more experience than a cop just coming out of the academy.
Right. Hmm. Yeah. Did you see Charles Barkley talk about this on TV? I thought that was interesting what he had to say. He was somebody asked him his opinion, and he was just kind of like, "My opinion is that there's not a problem between black people and white people." It was he was like, "I think that that's your politicians, the Republicans and the Democrats,
Mm-hmm.
are trying to get people to not get along." I don't know. I don't follow it that much because I'm on a news blackout. I have decided about, I don't know, over 2 years ago that I'm just turning off the news. I'm just not going to watch it, and I don't. And the important stories, they trickle down to me, and I hear about them, but I don't leave the news on all the time. I don't hear um, every little story. And honestly, my life's better. It really is. I just don't. I don't follow everything. I don't get all worked up about a lot of things. And that was something that I worked on a while back, and just turn the news off. And oh
Yep.
man, it's a way different life when you don't when you're not obsessing over, and you don't even think you're obsessing, but it's like it's on all the time.
Yep.
And try turning it off for a little while, and I don't know, it worked for me. I like it a lot.
Well, being a part of the media, reporting any type of news, it's a privilege.
Yeah.
Report it as it happens, not as we want you to hear it.
Mm.
Let the people decide for themselves.
Yeah.
Let them,
Is that what you do with your magazine? Because you're obviously very, very skewed in your readership. Like, you have a bunch of hunters and a bunch of fishermen and a bunch of people that probably are concerned about the gun rights. They want to maintain their gun rights. So when you report on something like what we're talking about, how do you report that to an audience like you have,
Admittedly, I am very one-sided when it comes to the Second Amendment.
well, yeah, probably, but still, like you say, it is a privilege to report the news, and it is your duty in some way to present both sides of an issue, and then let people. I mean, you already know which way they're going to go, so
I call things as I see them for the most part.
yeah.
But as far as the Second Amendment goes, their narrative is out there, and they're hammering it home as hard as they can, as fast as they can. And for a long time, we basically sat back and said, yeah, well, this is all right. And we were very passive in how we went about it. Our voice needs to be heard. And that's my goal. Let our opinion get out there. Let our voice get out there. And like it or not, it's all right to think this way.
Mm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's something it's disturbing to see the cancel culture and the movement away from what is really free speech. Like, you can say whatever you want. Well, not really, because I mean, people are getting their careers taken away. People are really getting in some hot water because of something they said, and not even just something that they just said recently. It might have been something that they said 10 years ago. And I don't know. I think that's a pretty disturbing trend for
It
that.
really is.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope that doesn't continue, or I don't know. At some point, it has to get so ridiculous that people are just like, well, no.
I was never a PC guy. I'll say what's on my mind. I'll say it in jest. I'll say it as a joke. I'll say it in a serious manner. The way I grew up, guys busted each other's chops about any number of things. You either rolled with it or you were in a fight every day. You can't, your feelings can't get hurt because your friends are busting your chops. It's the way it was. Now everybody's offended. What people don't realize is, why do you need an AR with a high capacity magazine to go hunting? Well, that's not what it's about. The Second Amendment was never about hunting.
Mm-hmm.
It was never about what you can own or how much you can own. It's about protecting yourself, your family, and your country from a tyrannical government.
Right.
You're protecting yourself from enemies, both foreign and domestic. If we hypothetically, and God forbid, we ever have to rise up against our government because they're not doing what they were elected to do, what are we going to throw rocks at them?
Mm-hmm.
We have to be able to protect ourselves.
Yeah, and that's what that was the intention, right? To keep the government in check, that every citizen has the right to bear arms. That was the intention, or the original intention. So I don't know. We'll see where this goes. But that certainly was the original intention. What about fishing? How much are you covering for, like, the striped bass is a huge issue up your way. We've had a number of people on the podcast talking about the health of the striped bass fishery and the different regulations from state to state, and how just the state of that fishery. Are you watching that?
I haven't been covering a lot of that. I do have a fishing column. Josh Bendowski, he owns Bendowski Power Fishing, and he's in Utah. So he writes a lot of my fishing articles.
Gotcha.
I think this issue, he has something about barometric pressure in fishing, and how it affects your fishing, how it affects the fish, different times to fish, how the weather affects your day out on the lake.
Yeah, barometric pressure. That is definitely a major factor. I have never really spent the time to journal all about like what the barometric pressure has been and how that affected the fishing, except in trout fishing out west. You get a low pressure system come in and all the bugs hatch and every fish in the river comes up and starts eating them. And that is by far and away. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see that. Like the low pressure moving in does something to the whole ecosystem and it is on. That is definitely the best time to go.
Well, how do you go from being a freshwater fisherman in Wyoming to being a saltwater fisherman in Key West?
That's pretty easy. That's a pretty easy answer. If the weather was like it was in the summertime in Wyoming all year long, I would have never gone to Key West. But I tried to spend a winter in Jackson, Wyoming, and it was so cold, and I am such a wimp that I went as far as you could possibly go away from that and ended up in Key West. I mean, that is kind of the answer in jest. I really wanted to fish all year round, and when I was a guide out west, there was we didn't have the season that we currently have. I don't know if it's homeschooling or what, but it used to be that around the 7th or 8th of September, man, I mean, the tourism decreased by 80%. And there was just, school goes back into session. And, 2 weeks ago, town was absolutely full. Now town is virtually empty. And it was a very specific time. That doesn't happen like it used to. And I'm not sure exactly what the reasons are or why, but guides now are fishing all the way through September, all the way through October, into November until it gets really cold. And then they're fishing select days in the winter, and then they're starting fishing early in the spring. When I was guiding in Jackson, it was not like that, and it was unheard of for many people to get very many days. You could get about 100 days, and that would be maybe a few early season before the runoff. Then the runoff would start, and then our season would start about 4th of July, and it would go all the way until there were no more tourists. And the fishing stayed great. It was fantastic, but there just weren't very many people to take fishing, even with the advent of all the good gear like the Gore-Tex wader and the great movie like A River Runs Through It that brought tons of people out there. It still seemed like just school and everything else just kind of kept a lot of people from the fall fishing. So my choices were I could get a real job, like a lot of people did. They were like teachers or something, and that would leave their summers open for guiding, but then they would do something else in the winter. Some people built houses, some people were snowmobile guides, some people were elk hunting guides, some people were just general kind of do whatever kind of people. None of that was really all that appealing to me. I wanted to fish. I wanted to fish year round, and I wanted to do it just like we were doing in the summer, just every single day have a trip. And so my first thought was, well, I will go somewhere in the southern hemisphere where there are trout. And that looked kind of like Patagonia, Argentina, something like that. But I had no connections there. I didn't know anyone there. I'd never been there. So then there was another opportunity that was saltwater. And there was some sort of a connection between Jackson Hole Trout Guides and Little Cayman Island, which had a place called the Southern Cross Club. And my boss said, hey, if you want to go down there, I could probably hook you up. And me being pretty wise right then at that particular moment, I said, well, maybe before I take the job, I should go down there and check it out with my then girlfriend, now wife. And so we went down to Little Cayman. It's pretty rural, pretty rough. There were about 12 people on the island, one little lodge there. You had one fishing guide that would have been me, and my wife would have cooked. And it let's just say it was not what we were looking for. It was an opportunity, and I was happy to have that opportunity, but it just wasn't going to work for me and my
little too
wife.
desolate for
Yes,
your own good.
yes. Now, my wife had spent a ton of time on Grand Cayman and was very familiar with that and gone there many times with her family. So the Cayman Islands was a place that we were familiar with, but Little Cayman at the time was very undeveloped and pretty rough, really. So on the way back, we stopped in Key West and visited a friend that I had there, Simon Becker. And man, I was just like, what is, after going to that desolate island and then coming to Key West, and I think that we happened to be there on Fantasy Fest, which is like Mardi Gras, you know? And so we were kind of like, what's wrong with this place? This place is amazing. All we got to figure out is how anyone would possibly get started down here. And through the help of Simon and my other friend, Mike Pollock, and lots of other people, kind of created an opportunity. And so I would spend, I spent the first year down there getting my captain's license without taking any trips. And then I went back out west and guided in the summer, and then came back to Key West. And I was planning on like just continuing to learn for a while. And I was very hesitant about taking my first trip. And finally took a trip, and it was pretty successful. And that started it all off right there. And, just eventually gave up the West and spent all my time in Key West because we could fish 365 days there. And the Western fishing, like I was saying, it was very limited in I was working for someone else. So I was only making, half at least, or at best half of the guide wage was coming to me. In Key West, I own my own business. So of course you have your own expenses for boats and everything else. I mean, it's all on you, but you get everything, and you're in charge of your schedule. And I don't know, I just liked it. So that's how I started my career. And really, I mean, all kidding aside, I did flee the winter in Jackson and go to the warm weather because I am kind of a cold weather wimp. I don't really, I can handle it, but I don't really like it.
Key West is a lifestyle,
man. Yeah, it is. And there's Key West is the bottom of the funnel, right? So or the top of the funnel, depending on how you look at it. And you see the best of the best, and sometimes you see the worst of the worst down there. And some of the best people I've ever known in my life have been in Key West, and there's some other people that have trickled down to the bottom of the funnel instead of worked their way up to the top. And so you kind of look at it in a lot of different ways. But I love Key West. I think Key West is an amazing place. It has a tremendous amount of history. The fishing is otherworldly. I mean, it's really good. And, it's a great place to make a career.
So after a hard day out on the water, what do you make your way over to the Hog's Breath?
Not at all. The funny thing was, I did not. I stayed about as far away from Duval Street as you could possibly get because Key West is super expensive, to live there. And so I was working every day, and there just was not a lot of time for that. I would get back, and then I was raising kids there too. So we lived kind of one island up from Key West, and we were raising kids. And so you have the whole tourism, Duval Street and that circus that goes on down there. And then there's a big population of people that just never go there, that live in Key West. And that's just not part of the deal. Now we'd go to restaurants down there and stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of fun things to do down there, but
a lot of nice places.
Yeah. But for the most part, man, you're just guiding every single day just to make ends meet. You just, everything's expensive, it's really, really expensive there. So,
back in the 80s, they couldn't give houses away down there. You could buy a house for like 10 grand.
Wow. I wish I had bought a whole bunch of them, because
Yeah, me too.
I did witness the real estate prices going way, way, way up, and then way, way, way down, and then back up again. And Key West is a place that is, you'll see crazy shifts in the real estate market. I mean, a house will be worth $1 million, and then it'll be worth $300,000, and then it'll be worth $1.4 million, and then it'll be worth $250,000. And depending on the hurricane season, depending on the economy, depending on lots of things, you see these massive shifts in value there. But I mean, for me, that's one of the best investments I've ever made, was a house in Key West, for sure. Do you spend a lot of time down there?
I've been down there a couple times.
Yeah.
I like to travel. I've probably been around most of the world, probably 40-50% of the U.S.
How did you travel around the world? Hunting and fishing, or like other ways?
No, I was in search of the ultimate beach.
Oh, nice! You went in search of the ultimate beach just to hang out, or are you like a surfer, or what? What's the draw to the beach?
Lay on the beach and just catch some rays and relax.
Okay, so where is it, in your opinion?
Probably one of the nicest beaches I've ever been to is in Venezuela.
Ah, nice. There's a lot of good bone fishing there.
You walk out into the water, you're literally up to your chest in water. It's like you're standing in a glass of water, crystal clear salt water.
Yeah. What part of Venezuela is that? Like, I know about the bone fishing destinations there, and it is supposed to be incredible.
We were in a lot of the small islands off the coast of Venezuela, around Margarita Island, Puerto La Cruz, around there. And then it's funny, we had a fly out of Caracas. And, there was military in the airport at that time and whatnot. And I had about 4 hours to kill for my flight. So I went over to one of the military guys and I said, where can I get a cab? And he's like, where do you want to go? I said, well, I got a 4-hour layover. I figured I'd, go see Caracas. He's like, not a good idea. I'm like, why not? He said, don't leave the airport. He said, you'll get in a cab that you'll never be seen again.
Whoa.
I said, well, 4 hours really isn't a lot of time.
Yeah. Turns out they have a book right over here I can read. Yeah, that's kind of scary. Good thing you asked.
Beautiful country. I found the people to be very accommodating, very nice, but Venezuela turned out to be Venezuela.
So, if you were to say top 3 beaches that you've found, what would you say?
Wow, Venezuela's one. St. Croix.
St. Croix, yeah.
St. Croix's got some beautiful beaches.
They do a lot of, if I'm not mistaken, St. Croix, that's a place where you do some shore dives, where the scoop you set up on right on the shore, and you just start diving right there.
It's a very flat island.
Yeah.
So hurricanes really rip through it.
I'm going to the British Virgin Islands next year, and doing a sailboat trip down there. So looking forward to it. I've never been.
I guess the next would probably be St. Martin. Beautiful down there.
Yeah.
Love it.
What about Hawaii? You been out there?
Never been to Hawaii yet, so I can't put that on my list just yet.
Yeah. Well, I'm taking my daughter there in June, and we're going to be in search of the ultimate beach, as well as the ultimate wave, and as well as the ultimate hike. And Hawaii like the more I learn about Hawaii, I've been there twice, but the more I learn about Hawaii, man, the more time I want to spend there. It is just an amazing place with incredible diversity in not only just the wildlife and the vegetation and the terrain, but also really in the things that you can do. Like you can surf, you could conceivably you could snow ski in Hawaii. You can
Wow.
you can fish. I mean, there's a drop off that is in sight of land where you can catch the biggest things that swim in the ocean. I mean, marlin and everything. I mean, just right there, right off the coast. I mean, it's an amazingly quick drop off. Like you don't have to go way out. I mean, like you just see the fish, you see the boats just fishing right out there, and like they're fishing for the best stuff. It's not like they're trying to make an easy half day out of it. That's where the fishing is, and so I'm looking forward to that. There's some incredible bone fishing there. Um, Really huge ones. And that's the only reason I've been to Hawaii is to stop over on the way to Christmas Island, which is also a really spectacular place to go. I love Christmas Island. Um, but Hawaii has just some of the most beautiful beaches, some of the most beautiful waterfalls, some of the most beautiful hiking trails, some these incredible volcanoes. We're going to go up on the towards the summit of this mountain that's there. It's 9,600 feet is where you have to stop, and if you have 4-wheel drive, you can go above that because the air's so thin that it says that your brakes won't work. So I guess you have to put it in really low gear to come down without using your brakes. And this is like a 12,000 or 13,000 foot mountain there, and there's this observatory up there, the Keck Observatory, but it's supposed to be, even if you just go to the 9,600 or 9,200 level, you're supposed to have zero light pollution, and it's supposed to be the best star show you've ever seen anywhere.
Wow.
The best stars I've ever seen have been in Africa.
I would have to agree with you.
Yeah. Is that your experience there? I mean, I just couldn't believe what I was seeing.
The night sky and their sunrises and sunsets are some of the most amazing things I've ever seen.
Yeah. One of the coolest things I ever did in Africa is we were doing, just riding around in the Jeeps and stuff. And we stayed out to see this one particular animal. I can't remember exactly what it was because the next part of the trip is what I really remember. And we're driving back and it got dark and we're driving along, and all of a sudden the guy shuts down the Jeep. We turn off the engines, and we're like, "What? Okay, what's this? What are we doing here? Like, what are we going to see?" And he goes, "Okay, everybody, just lean your head back and look up." And man, the stars it was unbelievable. I have never. I mean, and I've been in the backcountry of Yellowstone and been in some really great places that are a long way away from any light bulb. And I've seen some pretty awesome stars. There were pretty awesome stars in Argentina and in Bolivia. It was great. But man, so far to date, nothing has compared with that sky that I saw there. You could see depth between stars, and you could see, I mean, I just never seen the Milky Way like that. And then we're in a different hemisphere. So all the stars that you're looking at are different. Like you're like, well, where is like the Big Dipper?
Be over there.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's a weird thing, but we don't look at the stars like we used to. But I mean, when you see something like that was entertainment a long time ago. Everybody just sat there and looked at the stars. And I think that's
the trouble with our society today. Nobody actually takes the time to appreciate what our world has to offer.
Yeah, well, it's pretty amazing. That star show. I agree with you, and I'm really looking forward to taking my daughter to this mountain. Mauna Kea, I think is what it's called. And I probably just butchered it and didn't pronounce it correctly. So sorry about that, Hawaiians. But I'm really looking forward to it. That may be the thing that I'm looking forward to the most going to Hawaii is going there because, man, I mean, just to experience that sky it's amazing. I just hope that we have good weather and we can see well. But apparently you get way up there and the clouds are like below you, even if it's cloudy on the way up. Like you get way up there and it's pretty clear.
That must be an experience.
Yeah, but look up that Keck Observatory, and you can see all kinds of pictures from up there. And
I haven't been to the South Pacific yet, but that's on my list. Fiji, Tahiti.
Oh yeah.
But when I was in Africa, I shot a springbuck at dusk, and the PH, he seemed a little stressed and panicked. He's like, come on, we got to get this taken care of. And he literally took the thing and threw it over his shoulders and ran down the mountain with it.
Wow.
We did our pictures and video, whatever we had to do, and threw it in the truck. He's like, okay, let's get out of here. And by the time we started pulling out of there, it was pitch black. And, the plains are really not a safe place to be after dark.
Right.
And we went back the next day to hunt the same area. And sure as hell, we saw 3 male lion about 300 yards from where I shot this thing.
Wow.
So we could have very well been the hunted while we were hunting.
Man, that's pretty scary, especially when you see how big those lions are in person. And you just, you have no possible chance. I mean, there's nothing that you could do.
There's no way to run.
Weighs 800 pounds or some crazy thing. They're just absolutely enormous. And they're used to taking on these animals that are so awesome and armored and have horns, and they're fighting back, and they're like, we're nothing. Like nothing. But
they see a snake running across the plains.
Yeah. I went on a mountain bike safari, and we're riding mountain bikes through these areas. And man, I'm thinking, wow, this is, are we sure this is like, okay? Are we safe here? And of course, the guy that's with us, heavily armed. But we don't have like a Jeep following us or anything. We're on mountain bikes out there. I look back on that and I think, man, I think that was a really stupid thing, because the next couple of days we drove through a lot of the areas that looked exactly like where we were mountain biking. But with this one particular area, we went through this high grass and we stopped, and there was one lion sitting on the ground. And so we're looking at this lion, and there's this tall grass, and then here comes another one. The grass just kind of parts, and silently this other giant lion comes out, and then here comes another one, and they're just all coming out of this high grass. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, man, we rode right through an area that looked just like this. Like, that was not cool, and I would never do that again.
Classic story, death in the long grass.
Man, I know. And to see that happen. Have you ever seen that guy ride an elephant and that tiger leaps out of the long grass and rips his hand off?
Yep.
That is incredible, because that elephant is, an elephant is really tall, and a guy sitting on top of an elephant is really tall. And if you watch that video, that grass barely moves. And then the next thing you know, here is this giant tiger airborne from a good 30 feet away that makes it all the way up to the top of that elephant and bites the guy's hand off. It is unbelievable and
very
scary.
Humbling experience.
Oh, man. Yes. And very, very humbling experience. Just to even watch that video. That is one of the craziest videos I've ever seen, because you even, if you watch it 2 or 3 times, you even know exactly where in the frame the tiger's going to come out of. And you're watching that intently, and that grass never moves. And then the next thing you know, this thing is coming at you. It's unbelievable.
Here in the U.S., we have a lot of opinions about hunting Africa, trophy hunters and whatnot. But what people fail to realize is we don't have it like they do there. They don't walk to the river to get water and have to worry about a lion coming out of nowhere, or a crocodile snatching them off the river's edge, or a hippo, or anything. To them, it's survival day to day.
Every day. Yeah.
So, hunting is vital to not only their economy, but to the conservation of certain species to assure their existence.
Yeah, certainly. That is where where the message kind of falls on deaf ears sometimes is the conservation, the way that hunting is providing conservation for those areas, that it's not only the money pouring into the economy, but if that money wasn't pouring into the economy in some areas, then the industry would be poaching. And they're so those people that are guides, or those people who are making a living entertaining hunters, otherwise would be making a living killing those animals. So, and more of them, way more than the hunters are, and almost no money is coming back in.
Well, all the money that hunters and outdoorsmen spend, not just the Pittman-Robinson Act, just in general, so much money pours into the conservation and preservation of these animals, and anti-poaching efforts and things of that nature, where organizations like PETA, all the money that they raise, it goes towards hate campaigns. They don't put any money into conservation. It's us that does it.
Right. Explain that the act that you just mentioned for anybody that doesn't know what that is.
The Pittman-Robinson Act came into effect, I guess it was somewhere in the 30s. I think it was during Teddy Roosevelt. Every license purchased, every round of ammunition, every firearm purchased, there's a tax that comes right off the top and goes towards conservation. So it's a built-in insurance policy that we will be able to see these species and manage these species for generations to come.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that is a self-imposed tax that a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people, I mean, not necessarily a lot of people that listen to this show don't know that, but just in general, a lot of people don't know that hunters and fishermen are providing so much money towards conservation, and that conservation is in the form of fish and game officers. It's in the form of their salaries. It's boat ramps. It's law enforcement. It is habitat. It is habitat protection. All on down the line. I mean, everything.
And then there's organizations like Dallas Safari Club, Safari Club International, or non-for-profits like that are putting even more resources.
So like that's one that I'm not familiar with. Like when I hear Dallas Safari Club, and I know that that's a very reputable organization, but I don't know what their agenda is. It seems like it would be for African hunting, but maybe I don't know, and maybe other people that are listening to the show don't know what the chief agenda is.
Dallas Safari Club is not just Dallas. I think right now there are 15 or 18 chapters across the country. I'm actually on the board of directors of the Northeast chapter of Dallas Safari Club, which covers Maine down to New York. And we're involved in conservation efforts and bringing youth back into the outdoors and teaching them how to hunt, how to bow hunt, how to shoot a bow, just the conservation of the outdoors in general. It's not just it's not just Africa.
Yeah,
there's a lot of conservation efforts going on here in the U.S. as well.
That's a really good thing to to be doing right now, because we have a real influx of hunters and fishermen due to COVID, due to you know there's been a tremendous number of people that are being introduced to the outdoors in the last year.
Hmm.
So education is super important as to ethics, as to limits, and just general behavior in the outdoors. Um, for a lot of reasons. Like we were talking about this on a podcast just the other day of, if somebody goes hunting and fishing and then they get a ticket from the game warden, the chances of them continuing are probably slim. They're like, oh, I thought this was going to be really fun. Now I got this $500 ticket, this day in court. This is really lame. I didn't know you couldn't keep this many fish. I didn't, whatever it may be. Probably a rookie mistake. They get a ticket. They're probably out. Like, it's going to take a dedicated person to continue. But that education, that's something that could have easily been avoided because of, through any sort of program, any sort of outreach program where people are teaching, good ethics, good behavior in the outdoors. Like, this is how you stay within the law. This is, the law is not a suggestion. It is it is the law. It's not, even more so than the speed limit. Like, you can go 30 miles an hour in a 25 and you're probably going to be okay. You have 5 ducks over the limit, you're not okay. You have 1 duck over the limit, you're not okay. 1 fish over the limit, that is not okay. It's not like around 6 fish a person. It is 6 fish a person. Like, you can have around 6 fish if it's 4 or 5. That's around 6, but 7 does not mean around 6. Like, that's over. And some people that are getting into the outdoors for the first time, they don't know these things, and they can be told these things hundreds of times, but it did not compute somehow, and they're destined to have a really bad day, which is defeating the purpose of so many agendas of getting more people involved in the outdoors, getting more people to hunt, getting more people to fish, because that's the future of our sport, and we really, really need that. But in my opinion, it starts with education being really available. Like, oh yeah, you can learn how to hunt. There's 3 or 4 different organizations. Call it the Dallas Safari Club. Call it a state-sponsored Fish and Wildlife weekend, or whatever it may be. Trout Unlimited's having something, or but they're definitely, we need to definitely be trying to provide these opportunities that, for somebody that has hunted and fished all their life, it's like, well, you tie a knot. That's how you do it. Like, but for somebody that's never done it before, the most basic things are the biggest challenges to getting into the outdoors.
Well, that's actually one of the things that social media has made accessible. There's a lot of local groups through social media that you can find a mentor to help you learn how to bass fish, or tie off a lure, or learn how to shoot a bow, or learn how to get into your tree stand for the first time and be able to shoot out of your tree stand. There's a lot of people willing to go out of their way to mentor you, to show you the ropes, to show you what not to do, to show you the right thing. Like, for me, my uncle took me on my first hunt. And granted, my uncle was not the best hunter. In fact, I can't remember him ever shooting anything. But what he did teach me was the whole experience. Being in camp with the guys, sharing stories, just that. For me, that's half of hunting, being in camp with the guys.
Yeah.
And, he taught me the experience. The rest I kind of picked up on my own.
Yeah, that's where you learn how to be successful. You have to learn that on your own. But you're right. The camaraderie and the whole experience is is really the whole thing with hunting and fishing is there's a lot more to it than actual harvest. And for the most part, when you get started, there's not a lot of harvesting. Like, unless you're hunting some really, really good land, or I mean, if you're hunting on public land and you're trying to learn how to hunt on public land,
good luck to you.
I mean, it does happen. You can kill stuff there, but it is going to be a longer process. I mean, and you're going to need to be pretty dedicated, and there are going to be a lot of days where you don't see anything, or it's about to happen, and here comes somebody walking through your whole setup, and it doesn't happen.
All of us have, found our stand in the woods on public land, only to wait for sunrise. And you look around, and you see 2 or 3 other hunters, and
right.
Right around where you are. You didn't even hear them come in.
But that's not always the worst thing. They could bounce something to you that you wouldn't have seen otherwise, and you can do that to them. And I had a buddy on talking about turkey hunting. He's one of the best turkey hunters that I know, and he was talking about public land techniques of doing that on purpose. Like, here's a gobbler. What's going to happen is you're probably going to call him to you to an extent, but he's so used to being called to that what he's going to do is probably run back down this ridge line. And so they already have the other guy set up, a half mile away down this ridge line. He calls, it's not happening. So he purposefully overcalls, which sends the thing exactly to his buddy. Right. Like that's a good hunter that realizes this and knows this and is using those wary birds in the public land situations, using that to the advantage. And that's, that's how you may have some success where, just trying to hunt the way that you've read about in the textbook articles. It's not exactly that way on public land.
It's experience.
Like sometimes. Yeah. I
never had a lot of luck turkey hunting. They always seem to show up the day after the season ends.
Oh, they're good at that. So are big deer, by the way. But But yes, they do show up the day after, and they're there a lot the day before.
I was bow hunting deer last year. Right the day after turkey season ended, I had about 30 birds in front of my stand.
The day after.
Where were you yesterday?
Yeah. They know, man. They know. They definitely know. Well, listen, man, Chris, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate it. I learned a lot about what you do, and what about the podcast that you have? How much time are you putting into that? I saw the one that you had with Bo Jackson. That's a pretty awesome guest.
Bo was on the cover of one of our magazines. I think it was the winter edition, and he was so gracious and accommodating, and it was a real thrill to get to meet such an icon.
Yeah.
But he is a diehard, obsessive hunter.
Yeah.
He makes his own arrows. I mean, he's like,
listen, man,
he's the real deal.
I was listening to that podcast, and I'm hearing Bo Jackson. He's like, I'm a pretty good shot with a bow. And I'm like, really? And I asked my buddy Connor here, I was like, do you think Bo Jackson's a good shot with a bow? And he's a lot younger than me. And I was like, do you know who Bo Jackson is? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, I guarantee you that Bo Jackson is probably maybe the best archer on the planet, because I'm going to say that Bo Jackson could probably pick up, I don't know, name the sport, bowling, pool, and within a week, if he wanted to, he could be world class. I mean, that guy is literally one of the finest athletes this planet has ever produced.
Yeah.
And to think that he now wants to, like, his passion is bow hunting. I guarantee you that guy is relentless in his practice and in what he does and how he shoots and just being able to just do it, man. I mean, like, I would have these guys on the boat, sometimes, and you could just tell. You give them a fishing rod, and within, I don't know, 2 minutes, they look like your guide buddy. It's like, that guy's a good athlete. Like, there's more to it than just.
He's a fanatical fisherman as well.
Yeah, I'd love to get him on the show. I would love. Maybe
you know we were talking about his nilgai hunt, and they're like very spooky animals to hunt. They're very jittery. They're hard to get close to. And he said, if I could get that thing within 70 or 80 yards, I can get it.
Oh, I guarantee you.
A 70 or 80 yard shot with a bow.
Yeah. That
is unspeakable.
Well,
it just don't happen.
Yeah, but that's where you're talking about a different human. Like, that guy, I mean, whatever you can do at 30, he can do at 80. And
fastest man on the planet.
Dude, he's incredible. I got to see him. I went to the University of Alabama, and so when you hook me up with Bo Jackson and I get him on the show, my daughter is going to Auburn next year. So maybe that will negate me being an Alabama alumni. So anyway, I got to see the Alabama-Auburn game with Bo Jackson and Bobby going up against Bobby Humphrey, and it was pretty awesome. I took my dad to that game, and Bo became he won. They won. Auburn won that game, and it was pretty cool though, because Bobby Humphrey was also known as one of the top running backs in college, and he might have gone on to the pros and done well, but then you just see Bo take off, and it's like, man, I saw that guy playing college. You always want to say that.
The best athlete of our generation, or any generation, maybe.
Yeah, no, he's incredible. Yeah, maybe any generation. So when I hear him talking about shooting an apple off somebody's head, I'm pretty sure that happened.
He actually shot it out of somebody's hands. He didn't say who.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah, right. And
a 90-pound bow too.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I'm sure he can do it, man. Sure, he could also probably make a mid-court free throw 10 times in a row. I mean, the guy is just unbelievable. Like, he said,
he can't play basketball.
Yeah.
He said it's an indoor sport. He's an outdoor guy.
Yeah. Well, I bet he could kick it. I bet he could kick it in the goal. Then he could get that thing in the goal somehow. I promise you.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. He's a pretty incredible guy. Anyway. All right. Well, listen, man, thanks. So how did everybody hook up with you and see what all you're up to?
Well, they can find me on Waypoint.
Nice.
Listen to our podcast. You can see our streaming video. And you could pick up our publication at AmericanOutdoorNews.com.
Okay. All right. Sounds good, man. All right, Chris. Well, I hope you have an awesome day. We'll do this again. And thanks for your time.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Nice. Okay. We'll see you.
All right. Bye-bye.